Good day, everybody. My name is Folahan Ilekom. My teaching today is based on a non-African poem titled Binsey Poplars. A non-African poem titled Binsey Poplars, written by G.M Hopkins. As you can see, this poem is a poem of nature. Let's first look at the text of the poem. Binsey Poplars, in brackets, fell 1879 by G.M Hopkins. My husband's dear, whose eerie cage quell or quench, in leaves the leaping sun, and fell, all fell, of a fresh and following folded rank, not spared, not one that dandled a sandal, shadow that swam or sank, or meadow and river, and when wandering weed winding bank. Oh, if we but we knew what we do, when we dwell or ill, hark and rack the growing green. Since country is so tender, to touch her being so slender, that, like this sleek and symbol, but a prig we make no eye at all. Where we, even where we mean, to mend her, we end her. When we ill or deaf, after comers cannot guess the beauty being, 10 or 12, only 10 or 12. Strokes of havoc on self, the sweet especial sin. Rural sin, a rural sin. Sweet especial rural sin. That is the text of the poem. Now, this is a short life history of the poet. G.M Hopkins was born in 1844 in Stratford, Essex, near London. He attended Balliol College, University of Oxford. He was one of the famous English poets whose work expresses an intense response to the natural world. In 1866, he converted to Roman Catholicism, and 2 years later, when he entered the Jesuit order, he destroyed the poetry he had already written. In 1877, his superiors in the church encouraged him to write again. Some of his works are The Wreck of the Dutchland, The Wind Over, Pied Beauty, Duns Scotus, Oxford, and Binsey Poplars. These poems subject matters are on natural objects. Most of his works, like other poets of his category, were published after his death in 1889. So, the man died in 1889, and most of his works are published after his death. Now, I identified some difficult words in the poem, and I titled it The Poetic Meaning of the Difficult Words and Expressions. That is, the meaning of the words as used in the poem. If it is an English language, we call it contextual meaning. But this is a poem. That is why I titled it The Poetic Meaning of the Difficult Words and Expressions. This will help us to understand the poem better. Poplars. Poplar is a deciduous trees. It's deciduous trees that lose their leaves in winter or dry season. Quell, as it is used in the poem, means stopped. Quenched also means stopped. Leaping means a large amount. Fell means to cut down. Dandle a sandal means in a row. Meadow is a field covered in grass. Deaf or ill, to cause something large. Tender, easily damaged, that is something that can be easily damaged. Sleek, it means beautiful according to the usage in the poem. Prick means to make a very small hole in something. Especial, of great importance. Now the content of the poem. Binsey Poplars is a poem of nature written by G.M Hopkins in 1879. Binsey is a village in the northwest of Oxford, England. It is very close to Port Meadow on the bank of the River Thames. That is, the place is close to the bank of River Thames. Poplars are deciduous trees that lose their leaves in winter or the dry season. This poem is born out of the felling of a row of poplar trees near the village of Binsey, which is why the poem is titled Binsey Poplars. Hopkins had been a student at Oxford, hence he was familiar with these trees and the areas covered by the trees. Felling these trees is painful to Hopkins. This poem is just like writing an elegy in respect of a departed soul. Elegy is a poem written in honor of a departed soul. So this poem is also likened to an elegy. And the tree is considered as a departed soul. The poet bemoans the felling of the trees. He refers to as aspens there, quote and unquote, in the poem. The appearances of the trees are not only beautiful, but they also created eerie cages, quote and unquote, to cover the rays of the sun. It provides shade for the people. He goes further to describe their arrangements and the felling of the trees to an army of soldiers massacred. He also remembers painfully the way they line and provide shade along the bank where the river and meadow met. Quote, the dandle a sandal, shadow that swam or sank, on meadow and river, and wind wandering with winding bank, unquote. The poet grieves over the total destruction of this gift of nature when it goes biblical that the destroyer do not know the implications of their actions by cutting down the trees. This is similar to Jesus' utterances while being crucified. Quote, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, unquote. So this is a biblical allusion used in the poem. Quote, oh, if you but knew what we do when we delve or hew, hack and rack the growing green, since country is so tender to touch, her being so slender, high, unquote. He also comments on the beautification of the landscape by the trees that are now destroyed. The beauties are not seen again, and also the generations yet unborn will not be able to view and enjoy the beauties, since the trees are no more there. They are felled within a very short time. What he's saying here, what the poet is saying is that the generations yet unborn will not be able to see the beauty of that area, since the trees are already cut down. Quote, when we hew or delve, after comers cannot guess the beauty being 10 or 12, only 10 or 12 strokes of havoc, unquote. With the felling of these trees, the landscape as well as the beauty has been totally altered and destroyed. That is what the poet refers to as unsafe. Now let's now look at the themes of the poem. As we know that the poem is a poem of nature, so the first theme there is a theme of nature. The subject matter discussed in the poem Poplars are natural things made by God. The poet laments the destruction of this natural gift of nature in the poem. Another one is beauties of nature. The felling of these trees pains the poets the more because of the beautification of the landscape by the trees. The trees cover the rays of the sun, thereby providing shade for the people and every other object under the trees. That is, the tree beautified the area before it was cut down. Quote, my aspens dear, whose hearing, cage, quailed or quenched in leaves the leaping sun. Unquote. There's also the theme of ignorance. The poet concludes that the people do not know what they were doing while cutting down the trees, and that if they knew, they wouldn't embark on such a destructive mission. Tenderness. The poet points to the fact that the earth is so tender that a slight touch might cause a lot of destruction to it. He compares this with the eye, that the tissue can easily be destroyed by a careless touch. He thereby condemns the felling of poplars, which much harm must have been done to the heart. What the poet is saying here is that in the course of cutting down the trees, much harm must have been done to the heart. I now compare it to the eyes. That is very. It compares with the eye that the tissue can easily be destroyed by a careless touch. That if you touch it anyhow, we are doing much harm to it. That is to the heart. Destruction. This theme gives birth to this poem. It is the destruction of the poplar trees that annoys Hopkins and prompts him to compose this poem of nature. He was familiar with the trees when he was a student at Oxford. Now, we are going to identify the poetic devices used in the poem. The first one is alliteration, which is extensively used in the poem. We have the use of this extensively in the poem. Alliteration is just a repetition of a consonant sound at the beginning of two or more words in a line of poem. So we have them: quailed or quenched, all fell, are all fell, are fresh, are following, fooded rank, not spare, not calm, shadow that swam or sank, when wandering with winding bank. Oh, if we but knew what we do, when we deaf or ill, the growing green, since the country is so tender, that like this lake and symbol, where we, even where we mean, when we ill or deaf, after commas cannot guess the beauty being, 10 or 12, only 10 or 12, strokes of half or conserve, the sweet especial sing, rural sing, sweet especial rural sing. The next one is onomatopoeia. This is a combination of sounds in a word that resembles or suggests what the word refers to. In the poem, haul and fell sound like when an axe is struck on a tree trunk. All fell, are all fell. We also have the use of personification. This is giving the attributes of a living thing to a non-living thing. That is, giving the attributes of a living thing to non-living things. We have it in shadow that swam or sank. To touch her been so slender. To mend her, we end her. We also have the use of assonance. This is the repetition of vowel sounds in a line of poem, as we have in this poem thus. In leaves, the leaping sun, all fell, are all fell. That dandle a sandal, shadow that swam or sank. To mend her, we end her. 10 or 12, only 10 or 12. There is also the use of biblical allusion. This is used where the poet concludes that the people, by destroying and felling the trees, do not know the enormity of what they are doing. This is similar to Jesus' comments while being crucified. Quote, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Unquote. We also have analogy. According to the Dictionary of English, it is a relationship of resemblance between two situations, people, or objects, especially when used as a basis for explanation or extrapolation. It is used where the poet describes the tenderness of the heart, that by felling the trees, much harm has been done to the heart. He then uses the analogy of the eye, that the tissues are tender, that a mere touch on it might destroy it. So that's just the appreciation of the poem Binsey Poplars. So I have an ebook that contains the ebook contains all the poems, all the recommended poems by WAEC and NECO. You can just visit my website www.literatureHub247.com. Again, www.literatureHub247.com. Click on the bookshop and you see all my ebooks there. Just click on the download and follow the instruction. So if you are new, if you are a new person on this channel, you can subscribe to the channel so that you have access to all my videos. Whenever I release them, you'll be notified. Thank you and God bless.